I'll never forget the night I went to St. Mercy's Hospital. Even now, thinking about it gives me chills. It wasn't just any hospital. It was abandoned, old, and surrounded by stories of strange happenings. I never believed in ghosts before, but that night changed everything. It all started with a call from a friend. He worked for a real estate company and needed photos of the place for some urban decay project. Easy money, I thought. But before hanging up, he said something strange. Don't stay there past midnight. Seriously. I laughed it off and said I'd be done by then. The hospital was in the middle of nowhere. When I pulled up, rain was pouring and thunder rumbled in the distance. The building looked like something out of a nightmare. Dark, broken windows, vines crawling up the walls. I parked as close as I could and grabbed my gear. For a moment, I hesitated. Something about the place felt off, but I shook it off. Work is work. The moment I stepped inside, the air felt heavy. It smelled like damp wood and mold. My flashlight flickered as I walked through the lobby, which was covered in debris, shattered glass, old furniture, and rusty wheelchairs. I set up my camera and started taking pictures. Everything was quiet except for the occasional creak of the old building. Too quiet. Then I heard it. A whisper. It wasn't the wind or the rain. It was inside. I spun around, my flashlight shaking in my hand. But there was nothing. Just shadows. I laughed nervously to myself and tried to focus. But when I looked at the photos I'd just taken, one made my heart stop. In the corner of the lobby, there was a figure. A shadowy figure that wasn't there before. I told myself it had to be a trick of the light, maybe something on the lens. I wiped it clean and moved on to the children's wing. That's when things got worse. The hallway leading to the children's wing was covered in peeling murals of animals and stars. It should have felt cheerful, but it didn't. As I walked, I heard it. A giggle. A child's giggle. My blood ran cold. "Hello?" I called out. My voice echoed back to me. No answer. Then I heard little footsteps running down the hall. I followed the sound, my heart pounding. At the end of the hallway, a door creaked open slowly. Inside was a playroom with dolls sitting in a circle on the floor. My flashlight swept the room. I swear those dolls weren't there when I first looked. Then one of them tipped over, and that's when I heard it again. "Play with me." I bolted out of there, almost tripping over the debris in the hallway. I told myself to stay calm and finish the job quickly. All I had left was the maternity ward. I made my way back to the elevator. The doors were rusted and barely open, but I squeezed inside. The buttons were faded, but I pressed for the 4th floor. The elevator groaned and started moving, but halfway up, it jolted and stopped. The lights flickered, and suddenly, I was in darkness. I felt a cold breath on the back of my neck. My skin crawled. I swung my flashlight around, but there was nothing there. That's when I saw it in the reflection of the elevator doors. A face behind me, pale, hollow eyes, and a wide, creepy grin. The lights came back on, and the elevator jerked back to life. The doors opened to the 4th floor, and I ran out, gasping for air. The maternity ward was worse than anything I'd seen so far. The walls were blackened from the fire that shut down the hospital, and the smell of burnt wood still lingered. I felt the temperature drop as I walked down the hall, my breath visible in the freezing air. I reached the last room, the one where the fire started. Inside, there was only a single hospital bed. I took out my camera to get the last shot, but as soon as I lifted it, the door slammed shut behind me. My flashlight flickered, and then I heard it. A woman crying softly. I turned toward the corner of the room and saw her. She was sitting on the floor, her back to me. Her hospital gown was burned, and her hair was singed. Slowly, she turned her head toward me, and I saw her face. Her eyes were empty sockets, and her mouth stretched open unnaturally wide as she screamed. Flames erupted around her, spreading fast. I tried the door, but it wouldn't budge. The heat was unbearable, and I thought I was done for. Then suddenly the door flew open, and I stumbled into the hallway, coughing and gasping. I didn't stop running until I reached the lobby. The front doors were in sight. I sprinted into the rain and jumped into my car. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely get the key into the ignition. The engine roared to life and I sped away, my tires screeching on the wet pavement. But it wasn't over. As I glanced in the rearview mirror, I saw it. The shadow figure from the lobby. It was sitting in my back seat, staring at me. I slammed the brakes, and when I turned around, there was nothing there. I kept driving, not daring to stop until I reached home. That night, when I looked at the photos on my camera, all of them were corrupted, except one. It was a picture of me, taken from behind. In the shot, the shadowy figure was reaching for my shoulder. I quit photography after that night. I still hear whispers sometimes, and I always feel like someone's watching me. Whatever I brought back from St. Mercy's Hospital, it hasn't let me go. If you ever hear about that place, do yourself a favor. Stay far away. And if you ever go inside, don't stay past midnight.